Number 25 is Teresa of Avila.
Are you going to go through this with all 25 of them?
I just decided, yeah. I liked it, so yeah, I will be doing this. So Teresa of Avila is on the list primarily because she's one of the mystics. And I wanted to represent that kind of strain of mystical Christianity. You see it more in Catholicism than you see it in Protestantism. Catherine of Siena would be another representative. Thomas A. Kempis, who wrote The Imitation of Christ, might fit into that category. But I wanted to make sure that area of Christianity was represented. Because as a Presbyterian myself, as a Calvinist, I tend to be a rationalist in my approach to Christianity. That does not mean that I don't appreciate those who are kind of on the opposite end, which is the mystical side of it. So let's talk a little about Teresa of Avila. She's born in Spain as Teresa Sanchez de Cepeda y Ahumada. 1535, she joins the Carmelite convent of the Incarnation at Avila. So she's about 19 or 20 years old when she goes into the convent. Between 1562 and 1582, obviously she's a grown woman by that point, she founds a series of monasteries and convents, and there's a slide coming up that shows the one she started. But she started 17 different monasteries and convents, which in of itself might bring somebody into consideration for the list, but that was not the sole or even primary reason she made it. In 1563, Teresa makes the first convent that she founded, St. Joseph of Avila, her home. So that's kind of her home base. 1565, she writes Life, written by herself, which is considered to be the second greatest autobiography of a Christian ever written. Augustine's Confessions is considered #1, but Catholic Encyclopedia, for example, says that this is probably the second greatest autobiography ever written by a Christian. 1582, she dies at Alba de Tormes. In 1622, she's canonized by Pope Gregory XV, so that she becomes a saint. And then she got quite a bit more notice in 1970 when she became one of the 3 female doctors of the church brought in by Pope Paul VI. The others are Saint Teresa of Lisieux, that's right, thank you, and Catherine of Siena. This here is a 19th century photo showing the old part of Avila. I thought this was really cool. You see the gates there, and Avila, at least at that point, had not changed a whole lot from the time that... So why is she in this? So she's a Carmelite nun, so she is a religious, a monk. She's a Christian mystic, a noted author. Founded 17 monasteries and convents as part of the mystical side of her. She's said to have experienced the transverberation or the spiritual piercing of her heart. You will have to ask our Catholic friends the true significance of that.
I have no idea.
But it's similar.
I know if they pierce your heart, you're dead. So.
Well, this is the spiritual piercing of the heart. Just like the stigmata is you're experiencing the pain of Christ on the cross. This is kind of a similar thing to that, a spiritual piercing of the heart where you're feeling
well, they
Christ.
had that sculpture, Bernini's sculpture, that was just absolutely stunning, you know, shows you the moment of piercing, whatever.
But the encyclopedia said that her autobiography forms one of the most remarkable spiritual biographies, which only the Confessions of St. Augustine can bear comparison. So, why is she on the list? She's on the list because of a noted mystic, author, founder of really a monastic order, the Discalced Carmelites. Discalced means going without shoes, and she founded 17 different monasteries and converts. And here's the ones that she started. The first one, the convent of the Discalced Carmelite nuns of the primitive rule of St. Joseph, is the first one she founds. Becomes her home base, and this essentially becomes a new order of nuns.
How long would that take to carve the sign over the?
It's a long name.
She co-founded.
I've never heard the two words put together, Christian and mystic. So what defined being a mystic? Was it her visions?
Yes, so that's a good point. So what defines being a Christian mystic? And there's always a very fine line about this within the Catholic Church. So yes, Tammy is correct. A mystic oftentimes will have visions. We'll talk about that in more detail when we get to St. Catherine of Siena. But Teresa of Avila did have a series of visions or dreams where she felt she was talking to important religious figures.
It was like Joan of Arc, you know.
Joan of Arc would be another one who had a series of visions. The reasons this is a very fine line within the Catholic Church is if you go too far,
Pentecostal.
Then you get weird.
Protestantism. But within the Catholic Church, if you go too far and you claim, well, I'm receiving a series of communications from the Holy Spirit, and this is new doctrine, so we need to add another book to the Bible, you can see how that becomes problematic. But neither Teresa of Avila or Catherine of Siena were claiming to have new doctrine to add to the Bible or to church doctrine. Rather that it was like a series of conversations with Peter or Paul or Christ himself or whoever it is, where you're gaining greater insight into Christianity, but not establishing new doctrine. I guess that would be the best way to put it. If Roman Catholics in the audience would like to add anything to that, now would be the time. Okay. I think there's something to be said for the mystical side of Christianity. That's why I included two mystics in here. Let's do this for each one. How many of you would, if you were doing your own list of 25, how many of you would have included Teresa of Avila? Raise your hand.
After hearing you.
Oh, yeah.
About half of you.
Well, if you read some of your stuff, her stuff, you would put her on there. I mean, her writings are lovely. They're wonderful.
Okay.
Worthy of consideration.
Worthy of consideration.